First off, Raging Fire runs at 125 minutes in theaters Friday, August 13th.
有啲嘢我想請教你，咩人咁目無法紀，咁冇人性，咁冷血，拉晒佢哋咪天下太平咯？你點睇？
冇點睇，可能真係同你有仇啦。
你班仆街做嘢咁高調，一定出錯。
咁有信心。
我哋出得嚟當差嘅，邊係驚得咁多啊？
監人，邊個賴嘢？耶穌都冇面俾啊！你哋而家好似送殯多，
睇邊個送邊個。
Donnie Yen plays Bong, B-O-N-G, a very principled cop who is finding a lot of people, his colleagues, are actually mowed down in the line of fire during a failed operation. 8 of his colleagues are killed. Okay, and we're not going to say who's killed in this failed operation, but the problem is the mysterious person, the mysterious mastermind behind this is not a spoiler, is his former partner, played by Nicholas. I'm mispronouncing the name TSE. I'm going to just pronounce it Nicholas Say. And he plays Engo and Engo, I don't know, NGO. He's the antagonist. Okay. And he's very good in this movie, Nicholas Say. He's very, very good in this movie. And the problem with his character is years ago, he used to be a cop and he got framed on an operation, which he shouldn't have been. People should have had his back. His bosses should have had his back. And because of just circumstances, this guy was thrown in jail. He comes out of jail and he's on a revenge mission against the people who wronged him and his fellow police cop buddies. And they go up, these former ex-police. It's basically ex-police led by this guy versus Bong and his current crew of policemen and women. That is the plot line behind Raging Fire. It has a lot of, if you've seen The Departed, if you've seen Den of Thieves, if you've seen Heat, all of these type of movies, you're not going to feel left out. There's not going to be an alien film for you. But the only difference is it's a Hong Kong set action thriller. For 125 minutes, didn't bring anything new to the table for me, but I loved every single second of it. We're talking about memorable moments. There is a height sequence from Howling Village, which we mentioned that will live with me. There is another sequence where there is like something gets caught in this movie in the middle of something that I go, what the heck? I've never seen this before. Maybe Bruce, you've seen this before, but I've never seen this before. And just for that, I thought it was worth it. Really good action, top of the line film for me. And I definitely strongly recommend Raging Fire. Bruce Perky, it's not your genre. I don't know.
Well, I mean, when I see a movie like this, I expect it to be, now this is just from pretty much a layman when it comes to this kind of movie. I expect pretty much no plot, just excuses to get to the fight scenes. And it's a little of that, but the plot's actually a little better than I expected it to be. So I found myself more invested in the characters than I thought I would, especially the villain, because my experience, once again, limited, usually the villain is just a villain. They're bad, or they've done something really bad to make the hero angry, like, you know, they've killed a family member or something to make the hero angry. But this actually has a pretty good reason that the villain is angry, which I kind of enjoyed that. You don't know it right off the bat. So at the beginning, it seems like it might be more generic. And as you discover that, you're like, okay, cool, a little more motivation here. So it gives you just a slight bit of, I don't know, say it's sympathy, because the guy is pretty evil, but a little bit of sympathy. And I think it added to me character a little bit more than I expected. And then the action fighting pieces are pretty damn good to my eyes. And what I like, once again, you guys tell me where I'm on or off on this one. What I really liked, there's an early action scene. It's kind of in this, there's like a sewer leading up to like a, I don't know, what is that place. It's like a building little complex or something. And they do this really cool thing where they have a drone shot going over it. And as you're watching it, and this happens in several times in this movie, as you're watching it, you're like, okay, cool. This is where the fight's going to occur. I'm seeing the whole set. Like you're seeing it from a distance. And there's multiple times in this movie where you see a whole set and you're like, oh, this is where we're going to fight. And then the fighting itself was really good because, I mean, obviously you've got high level martial artists here that are really on top of their game. But what I really liked about it, and this, it felt almost like those video games where you have a really interesting backdrop where the fight occurs. And as you're fighting, they'll like fly through a piece of that like backdrop and go to a second level of the backdrop. And then they fight there and have a big cool fight. And multiple times this felt like that to me, but in the best way. It was over 2 hours and I wasn't bored. I enjoyed it. I think people who like fight movies will like this. I did, and I don't generally.
That is very cool. Written and directed by late filmmaker Benny Chan. He passed away last year, I believe, of cancer. So rest in peace to Benny Chan. But after watching this movie, I actually want to see more of Chan's previous work. Eric Holmes, you might actually, out of all three of us, you might have seen more of these type of genre films than either me or Bruce. Your thoughts on Raging Fire?
This was pretty good. Story wise, there I mentioned, I don't know if it was on Finder Film or a movie Mainline, but I mentioned the movie The Cop, the Gangster, and the Devil. That movie has a really similar storyline of bad cop trying to do bad. Like they really point out because Donnie Yen's character does like cop stuff, and the 80s cop movie would just be, oh, he's just a good cop, goes outside the rules to do whatever. And in this movie, they point out like, no, you can't do that. The Cop, the Gangster, and the Devil go a lot deeper into that whole idea. And this one does okay with it, but you don't, at least for me, I don't really watch these movies for that. This is a stunt movie. This is a fight movie. So I'm watching this movie to watch the cool stunts, the cool set pieces, the fights, the choreography, and more importantly, like it's even got a couple parts that are kind of similar to what they call the Indian Bollywood. They have some definite Bollywood influence, especially there's one part where a guy's sliding towards a kid.
Right.
Jumps out of the passenger seat, grabs a kid, jumps on top of the car. It's like, oh, you're gonna be okay. I'm like,
that was awesome.
See, that doesn't happen. But I just saw that, and that was pretty freaking sweet. So it's got a bunch of ridiculous. Look, this movie is ridiculous. That's kind of where these movies shine. You get to watch the inventiveness, like even with the fights, if you slow them down, like the gunfights, you slow them down. There's like little details they do, or little moves someone in the background does to, kill the person in the foreground, or, it all moves so fast and kind of goes in a blur. But if you slow them down, it's like, oh, I see what he did in the background. That was pretty clever. Or, oh, okay, like the one guy, they have they're basically fighting back and forth with the gun, and he goes to shoot him, turns his hand just in time, but it shoots a guy across the across the room that was just about to get up and shoot him. So, the fun stuff like that. If you're watching this for story, look elsewhere. But if you're watching this for stunts and fights, this is right up there. And if you just got done watching Not Going Quietly, this is the perfect movie to come down off that.
Okay, so this is pretty solid recommendations from all three of us. Eric enjoyed the action stuff. Actually, Bruce liked the story as well. I like them both, but we're parsing here. All three of us give solid recommendations to Raging Fire. I am actually surprised that out of the movies that we saw, Raging Fire, I thought Raging Fire would have been sort of this. I think going back to what Bruce was going to say, during our movie Mainline days, cinematic dumpster fire, I thought this was going to be like a whatever movie, but it turns out to be the movie that really, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, for the most part, the most enjoyable. It's just a fun movie, right?
Yeah. I think like movies like this are a good example, especially after watching this after
Not Going Quietly.
Not Going Quietly. That's such a terrible title. But if I'm watching this movie, if I'm some random person watching this movie, just someone's like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing ever. I'm watching this movie. I'm like, this movie's stupid. But then that same person could watch this movie for the first time directly after watching Not Going Quietly. And it's like, this is exactly what I needed. Watching different movies in different contexts, it's kind of fun to kind of illustrates that there's no real objective way to say whether a movie's good or not. Because, and maybe some of them, Beast in the Cellar was pretty objectively bad, but other than movies that are just absolutely incompetent, it's neat how certain movies can, in one context, you'll watch it and the movie sucks. but you watch it in a completely different context, and it's the exact movie you wanted to watch, and it's your favorite thing ever. It's just neat how that sort of thing kind of balances out sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I definitely agree. For me, I could watch. Fortunately, I will disagree in one sense. I can watch Barry Lyndon, Stanley Kubrick's masterpiece any time of the day. Just tell me and I'll watch it. But anyways, that's for another argument on a future podcast on
As long as it's Barry Lyndon starring Donnie Yen.
Yes, Barry Lyndon starring Donnie Yen. That's the only way. Yes, I will not go quietly after watching that movie. That's going to be an awesome movie. Now, again, Raging Fire this Friday, August 13th in theaters via Wellgo USA.